August 24th. I'm getting ready to head out the door for elk season. We're gonna build this bow. Here's your first looks. It's really an honor to be part of Mathews and to be able to be one of the guys that gets to test this stuff out. So let's see what we got. We got the Engage leg limbs. These are thinner than normal, so they're calling these the Engage Exo limb legs. We got a Integrate from QAD. We got the bridge lock. We got the bridge lock adjustable V-bar. It's got to be a front bar, 12-incher. We got the Low Pro quiver. The new lift. Oh, and I ordered 80-pound mods. I can't wait to see how fast this sucker is. Let's go set it up. Guys, what's up? We are in my shop and Josh Jones is pronghorn hunting.
Yep.
And I got this bow today and I'm leaving in 2 days. So here's what I decided to do. I've had Justin in my life forever. He used to work at Spokane Valley Archery. Then he opened his own shop and then eventually his trail came back to Spokane and he's back at Spokane Valley Archery. Super glad to have him. Justin's kind of a quiet dude, so I'm gonna have to pry some information out of him, but his sharp cookie. First impression?
Just looking at it when I came in, definitely a smaller pocket on the end of either end of the riser here. Slight redesign on the connection point between the end of the limbs for your axle to run through. It does look like a new cam.
It's
looks
bigger.
Like more poundage available on it, 80-pound mods on this one.
Yep.
String change, it looks like.
Yeah, these are not custom strings, man.
Yeah.
This is factory.
Yeah, stock. And the center serving, just looking at it, and we checked knock fit before getting on camera, and it looks solid. Way better than what they've had here recently. Not that it was horrible, but this is definitely better. The grip is off the bow, but it does look like the grip platform underneath is wider and flatter than what they had before. And the riser geometry looks a little better than what they've had on the Phase 4 and V3X, V3, that kind of setup. So, and you can see that their target bow kind of went that way too, a more vertical neutral riser or slightly deflex riser there, kind of going the same direction here. So it looks like a cool rig.
I figured there'd be some crossover because they dropped that new one about a month ago. And this one doesn't drop till November. Well, you guys are watching, it's November. Happy November. It's August right now for us. I'm heading out the door 2 days. First things first, I imagine we're gonna find center shot.
Yeah, let's get the rest on there.
Oh. Show the friends at home.
Traditionally, the launcher arm for the QADs came with felt separately that would lay in the trough and along the arms on either side to help keep your arrow as it glides back as you draw from creating noise. But it looks like they've kind of overhauled that and done like an inlaid rubber mold in there. You may still need to put the one in the trough in the bottom of the launcher here, but it's a lot less work, and that's at a shop we see that a lot. People that come in and have that stuff peeling off, it's just a pain in the butt.
I was planning on heat shrinking tonight. Looks like we don't have to.
No, yeah, not at all.
Cool, we can just use this one then. We can keep that pretty one in its package.
We're gonna replace the actuation cord on this QAD with the cord that I've already gotten to this wedge. So on these rests, there is in the kind of 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock position when this thing is locked into place, there is a small recessed bolt that keeps this cord in place. We can effectively change the timing of the rest by loosening that and lengthening or shortening this cable to get the rest to do what we need it to do. But in this instance, we're just gonna pull the dang cord out. And this is a 3/32. So we'll get that out. You got a make strip in here?
This?
Oh, perfect.
Let's see if it works. Hey!
So with this BCY24, it's roughly the size that you have on the stock material that comes on these QADs. But you want to get it lit and kind of bring it to a finer point so that you don't have the flare of the material preventing you from getting it back through the rest itself. So it should go without too much. We'll probably need about what they had. You can use that as reference if you're gonna do this at home. We just need to reinstall this little gherkin. Firm it up, and then if we give the same amount of pressure that we gave to the wedge end here, we should notice that neither one of these things slips or moves. So we're gonna install the actuation cord for Dan's QAD with the AAE wedge, which is a little device that is gonna go in between the take-up cable on your bottom cam. So as the cam is drawn, that take-up cable puts tension against this, brings the launch arm into position with enough force that it can fall forward. This little device, I've already installed this just for the sake of time, but you would take, this is BCY24, I thread it into the back of what is essentially the nut end of this device. I'm gonna flare it out like I would a D-loop end, kind of tamper that down and let it cool, pull it through so that it seats properly in the back here. And then we can go ahead and install this in between. One thing that I'd like to check on this, just because I've never used it, is to put some pretty good force against it to make sure it's not gonna pop free before we install it on the bow. And here, that's kind of recessed, is gonna take this cap screw, try to give you guys a look. And that's gonna pull that snug and make this a solid unit. And then if you can imagine, we're gonna have either side of the take-up cable on either side of this wedge. So the wedge, I'm just gonna put this against my finger and kind of reef on it. Try to emulate the amount of pressure that is gonna be imparted on it, and that's not gonna pop out. So
I don't know if AAE is selling those separately. I know it's included with the Prophecy, and I know
Yeah.
I stole it out of the box.
Yeah, the one I brought is made by AAE as well. It's the Easy Clamp.
Love you, Nick, but I don't think this is as good as your wedge.
Yeah, and that's going to be a little more similar to what comes in their packaging.
I always call it
initially.
like a little football thing.
Yeah, and I think there's more of a tendency for this type of item to slide on the cable itself, just because you're working against pressure and wax that's trying to make its way out of that string. So I think this is the way to go, and we'll just serve around it on either end, keep it in place. The side closest to you, I'd hook around the dovetail here and kind of push the other direction and make sure it grabs on the other side. Line it up with your mark. Come back in here. Tighten this bad girl down. Be careful with this screw because it is a small thread. You don't want to strip that. So we've got the rest effectively installed without the plate on the back here. You'll notice that we have line from our rest attachment point and the line in the middle of the burger buttonhole on the back of the riser here. Lined up, makes sense. Snug this up, not too tight. That thread is really small, so we don't want it to strip out. At that point, you can rock the plate down on top, and then we will get center shot and start working our way towards getting timing.
You're gonna eyeball it. I'm gonna get on that eyeball of yours.
I know we tighten this up, but we're gonna loosen it just a little bit so that this can pull through as we set the timing. About like that.
Yeah, I saw.
If you get it
Did
too
you guys
loose,
see it move at home? He can move it just a little.
yeah, just a fuzz.
And then when you're at full draw, this should be lined up with this. You want to point that out?
Yeah, so lots of lines we're pointing out here, but there's an arrow and then a hash mark here, and ideally about a 1/2 inch-ish away from full draw, 1/2 inch to 1 inch from full draw, depending on how you want your rest timing. You want this lined up, and then at full draw, this should be slightly, in the past it used to be slightly past that mark, but if nothing, that needs to be lined up a little bit before you hit the stops against the cables. Like
That's a sweet fit. Look at that.
the width that you have your fingers on a press if you're using the one at home, the gap that you have in between the finger on a press like this last chance and the limb itself, because as you compress, we want to be pressing as close to, if not directly on the axle, and then that you have even pressure from the fingers on either side against the limb, so that if you do need to top hat this, there isn't excess force on either side, not allowing you to top hat this thing the way you need to. We're gonna get the wedge in there, so press her up. Once you have it in the press and a little bit of tension off the string cable set, you can take and put some pressure here, and you'll notice which direction these cables are moving. You want to attach it to the one below the rest that is moving away from you. So that little bit of tension, we've got this cable right here moving down. So that is what we're going to put it into. We'll separate the fibers here. Kind of the nice thing about a 2-color string is you can see the dead center. Kind of being careful not to press it too much because we're getting close to the limb. So we'll separate here, bring this in. You don't want this cord to wrap around this cable, so we need it to come off of the cable pointed back at the bow here. So most of the time you want a little bit of separation between this contact point and where the rest sits or the shelf sits. So it's beautiful that on this bow the serving comes to a point that gives us that appropriate distance. If you're installing this and didn't have this much cable here, we'd probably serve it on either side. In this case, I may very well just kind of leave it as is. I'm gonna eyeball with Dan's arrow kind of the vertical position of my nock on the string in relation to the bow, meaning nock high, nock low, or straight 90 to the bow. There are really good tools out there if you don't feel comfortable doing that can help you level that up, but we're just gonna use whatever you're gonna hunt with. What arrow are you hunting with this one? Something about like that. I like to use these little Saunders knocking points. This is the red one with a set of pliers. I'm not gonna crimp this on, but I just wanna put a little bit of pressure, and this can help me slide up and down the center serving here and prevent the nock from riding too high to get where I wanna be, and then I can mark with, you know, a Sharpie or start tying in my soft knots and whatnot. So I'm gonna look at it, I'm gonna put pressure against this rest too. This does raise the arrow just a little bit when it's at full draw, so don't set it with the launcher arm like this. I would put some pressure against it.
Fully erect, if you will.
Yeah, for sure. And then I use the shelf of the bow, this line, and I'm trying to get just equal gap in here. I did notice on these bows last year the Phase 4s tended to like to be just a little bit nock high, so I'm gonna hedge my bets and say that this might be the same sort of setup. So we're gonna start there. This is cool material. Really anything that you're confident in or confident with in archery, just stick with it until it fails you.
Itty bitty nock high.
Just a little bit. It's a bee's dick high.
Yeah.
So we're gonna wax up our material. I'm gonna try to do this as closely to what you would see at our shop.
And you were on my podcast when I first started, like year 1 or 2, weren't you? Mm-hmm. I remember that.
Yeah.
That was about 6 years ago. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems like forever. So we'll get these soft knots in here.
You killed your first bull.
I had.
That was cool.
Yeah.
So on your soft knots, do you like to go like a total of 4 or 5 on the bottom?
With this material, I'm gonna go a little more.
It is pretty thin to win, isn't it?
It's pretty thin. Nylon 400 that BCY makes that we would use at the shop. That's a little bulkier, and your soft knot will get a little bigger. This is probably a point of contention with different people as to whether you do 1 or 2 or how big it is, how much you got on either side, but we're just gonna do equal amounts top and bottom. Leave ourselves a little bit of wiggle room in here so that we don't get knock pinch.
Have you ever done just 1 soft knot versus 2?
Yeah, I've tried just the bottom because in theory that's all you need. But it is nice to have 2 locations where you to go and put another loop on there. All right, so we got the soft knot in the bottom there. Before I go and put my top set in the gap here in between my Saunders knocking point, I'm just gonna put a small little dot because that's where I want my start. And then I'm gonna move this direction.
Gotcha.
And then as long as you didn't crimp this down too tight, you should be able to slide it off the end of your center serving and then pop it off the other side. This is a really useful little tool.
That's a great hack.
Piece to have.
That's a great hack.
Tie the next one, and then do you usually do longer or shorter?
I like the length of this one. This was my primary bow.
Okay. So just maybe a fuzz on the short side, but not bad. Just finishing up the top set here.
So what y'all use at your shop?
What material?
Yeah.
BCY 400 nylon. It's softer. That's, like I said, you gotta use the equipment that gives you confidence. So, but I like this stuff because it's, for me, I just noticed in my own equipment that it doesn't have a tendency to break down as quick as that softer stuff. I've nerded out to the point where I've taken and made an arrow that I can attach a scale to see how much pressure it takes for this nock to come off the string.
Oh my God, I love you.
But this feels good. We can rotate the string without it rotating the arrow itself.
Yeah.
which you could see without a field point on the front of it as you draw. If you wanted to check it that way, you can do that for knock pinch as well. But I like about that much play. It's not a measurement, it's just a feel for the knock set there. And then the last thing you do, or that I do, is just give the string, you know, about a finger width above the string stop here. And that should rock that off pretty easily. So that might have a little, just for what I like, that might have a little extra bite than what I'd rock, but that's pretty solid. This is way better than what I've seen on their stock stuff in the past. So
We don't have
pretty
to
cool to see.
We don't have to reserve tonight, is what you're saying.
No, not at all. Actually, I thought we might have to, but this is awesome. This is cool. This is an awesome tool to have at home. We don't need an actual number, just a locked-in measurement. This is a loop size that Dan likes. Just gonna put enough pressure against it, pull it out here, lock it in place, and then we'll make sure this same measurement matches what we end up putting on the new lift here. This should be about right for Dan's loop.
What color's your bow?
Black and red.
Tristan, if people on YouTube want to know, are you going to wrestle next year or what?
No.
Tristan!
I don't like wrestling.
You just don't like wearing singlets?
No.
I'm with you there.
I am too. I get that.
It is kind of annoying to just wear them all the time.
Did you get any medals? Did you win any tournaments?
2.
Oh, yeah, you should quit.
Go out on top, right, Tristan? That Luna?
Yeah. There's just one kid, I don't know why, when we were doing practice, he was just doing laps. I was like,
He's getting his fitness in.
I was just like, are you going to wrestle or not?
Then before I go cranking on stuff too much, I'm gonna make sure that my material is close together. So we're good and snug on either side. You can take like this Elite plier with the bigger slot and just kind of make sure that you've got proper pressure on either side. Just give it that last little snug here. You don't want to overseat this and start to separate the center serving underneath, but just enough there to make sure it's good and snug. And then we can take, if I did this right, everything should be pretty good fit.
Sweet.
So same loop length. This will give the same feel as long as we can get the draw length at the same point that you've had on bows of past. Set the timing. We're going to pull it out of the press, get it in the draw board. These mods are at your length already?
Yep.
Okay. Start yarding this thing back. Always with an arrow in a draw board, just like anytime you draw your bow, have an arrow in the thing. And then I'm just taking notice of where my draw stops are here in relation to my cable. Right about in here is where we should start to see the rest come up into place. So we definitely gave ourselves enough room on this cable. I'm gonna let it forward and put quite a bit of more tension against it. So on the back side here, we'll just take this cable, pull it through a good bit. I don't want to mar Dan's bow. Yeah, there we go. So we're already, as you said, straight up or in the shooting position, fully erect on the rest here. So the tension that we're building against this is going to start to pull it through the rest and set the length of that cable for us. You should be able to see this cord start to pull through a little bit at a time. And then timing is out. We did wedge a large piece of material and shorten that bottom cable by spreading this out. So that'll be fixable. Correct, yeah, it's effectively shortening the cable. So we'll end up shortening this one a little bit. Always try to put stuff in your cables rather than out of your cables. So now we can let her forward all the way up there. And like I said, we're about an inch-ish away from our cables at full draw. So this is a pretty good position to be in. You could even run it to where it's fully erect, like in this spot right here. You know, okay. We could pull a little more cable through. Yeah, right there is where I'd like it. So we'll leave it there, let it forward. And then I'm gonna leave a little bit of excess on this back end so that I could play with timing in the future.
Nip that tip? Okay.
Nip the tip, burn it so she looks halfway decent. And then we'll effectively have set the timing on the rest, and now we just need to set the timing on the cams. Back in the drawboard, or the drawboard, the press, she goes about like that. Take the string off the top here.
Here he goes.
Pull our end loop off, and just take note of which direction the twist is. So we'll go 1 revolution. Back on. Like to use my fingers just to help the fibers blend back together when you put any substantial amount of twist in the string. Bang. Before we draw it, just make sure everything's seated. If you have a last chance drawboard, always use your safety cord there just in case your loop breaks, which it shouldn't. This is gonna be the go. You tell me when you're on up there. And I'm gonna stop right there and just use the wheel on the press to push me a little bit at a time here. Just real slowly.
Dude, Justin, I'm getting these little weird tips from you tonight that are cool.
So this is pretty common right here where we're just against the stop up here, and it's really hard to tell, but we're barely out here. There's products on the market that you can buy that bisect the cables here in bigger, smaller increments to eat up that little bit. But what you can do is just take a small piece of loop material. The amount of distance we have between our draw stops now and the cables is so small that a twist or a half twist is gonna start to bring the other one out of play. So there's a couple ways you can do it. Really 2 mainly. On an unfinished end loop like what Mathews has on their bows, you can actually put a half twist or a twist into the end loop itself, not the whole cable, and that can shorten it a little bit. I take a little bit of this loop material. When you fluff it out to build a loop, you'll notice that there is a piece of core material in the middle here. And we can pull that out and it makes this material act even smaller. So you can pull that core material out and it's gonna allow this stuff to compress and flatten out. And it's generally just enough that the amount that your timing is out will be corrected.
So you're not putting the core part in?
Nope, I'm just
putting the soft part in.
The soft material in, and then I'll cut and burn either side so that it doesn't look haggard on the bow. We should be able to shoot it through paper at that point and know without a shadow of a doubt that your timing's exactly where it needs to be. So we took the core out. Our top cam was ahead, so we're gonna shorten that, and we're just gonna take this material, put it in between the cable, and then our timing should be perfect.
And then burning it kind of scares me, bro.
Yeah. A lighter around your string cables is isn't always the greatest, but I'll be careful. Okay, so we have it separated just like we do for our wedge down here. We'll just take this material, insert it in between, and then the compression of the cables under load will kind of flatten that out. But that's effectively, from what I've seen, like add in a quarter twist. Okay, and then from here, you can kind of eyeball top to bottom so you can see that our gap here and our gap on the bottom is the same, but we'll use the
wheel to finesse.
The wheel to finesse it, and without me being right next to it, it looks like it's the go.
Yeah.
So timing's good. We got the rest timing set, loop on the bow at the length that Dan likes. And what we'll do next is have him get a field point on here, run it through paper just for an initial.
What do you think of that paper tuner?
It's pretty nice. I've worked in a shop long enough. Not a lot of people would always hit the white portion of this, but yeah, I think that's a great little tool, especially with the information that it has on the sides here.
Oh yeah.
To indicate what you might be getting on the bow.
For boys like me.
Pretty sweet. Boys like you. So the last thing I do on the Mathews especially is just triple check that my string stop isn't pressing into the string too hard. This is in there pretty good. So I'm just gonna break these 2 set screws free. You can kind of press on the back scoot this forward if needed. And that's more what I'd like to see, just a little bit of gap in there.
Like, could you get a piece of paper through there, you think?
Yeah.
But before you couldn't?
Before I couldn't, yeah. It was the string was indenting itself into the cushion on the back of the stop there. So
cool.
Just firmed up against it, centered against the back of the string, snug those back up, and then before we run it through paper, these rests have been coming with a center shot already set, so I'll just double check that looks good.
You looking for 13/16?
13/16, yeah, and it's right there.
Perfect.
What do you got for an initial tear? Kind of a high left tear there?
Yeah. You guys, when you hear top hats and shimming, I want you to think of it as it's a way to manipulate the arrow's orientation without messing with the rest per se.
Correct.
Think about it as doing the wheeling moves the string, and the arrow leaves the string. Took me a long time to kind of put that together. Some of you are gonna be like, oh, that makes sense. Some of you are like, duh. But for guys like me, or little slow knuckle draggers, think about wheeling as just moving the string. So which way do you think we'd have to move the string to get this point of the arrow to be more in the center? That's why he said left. And you're trusting that shot? Should I take one more? Or?
Sure, yeah, you can do another one.
I'll do one more just to...
I like to have people at the shop do 3 shots. If they can shoot the same shot 3 times in a row, then we can make an adjustment that's going to actually work. If they can't get the same tear 3 times in a row.
All right.
So we can roll with 2. That's good enough for me.
All right. Check out this, guys. Little pro tip.
Yeah, I'm gonna hedge my bets on that this is gonna want to walk a little bit potentially, just because you can only get these fingers so wide. So we're just gonna make sure that doesn't move.
So you're thinking switcheroos?
This system is, and I can see why they did this. In the phase 4, the top hat went through the limb, and these dampeners in between each limb would bind on the top hat, and I think they approached this in the correct manner. This is so much easier to slide in and out, night and day better.
Yeah.
So this is the 2 hash marked one, and this will be the single. These just need to add up to 3. We're gonna move to the one that has the 2 in the middle and the 1 in the middle.
They need to add up to 3?
You need to add up to 3. So we'll go from this, which was originally in the bow, to that. And we want to move the cam to the left a little more. So we're going to put the bigger one on the right side. The smaller one, wrong hole, on the left. Make sure everything is on there. Back in, and this is where it's important to have proper pressure against your fingers, because your axle needs to line up with each side of the limb to be able to go in relatively smooth without having to bang that thing in too hard. So it's cool to have a mirrored image, you know, the same top hats, top and bottom. It's not necessary though. So Dan has a small enough tear that we're just gonna do it on the top cam to begin with, see how much it moves it, and then if needed, we can come and apply that same method to the bottom set here. So we'll just start here. Don't forget to put this back in. And don't over tighten this.
You better say that again.
Don't over tighten this. You don't want it binding the cam. So just snug. There's Loctite on this hardware for a reason. You should be able to freely move. If I press this a little bit more, you should be able to freely move the cam here without any resistance. So if you can't, and you're doing this at home, you get these too tight, or you accidentally put the wrong top hats, like a 2 and a 2 instead of a 2 and a 1. Yeah. So we're good there. We're safe to shoot this again and see what we get through paper. So we've moved our rest up. I'm gonna cut our zip tie. I didn't come up with that trick. It was actually a kid I work with, but it made things safer for us until we pretty much got it figured out. Now we don't need them.
Man, that is legit. That might be into the wall.
It's ripping, man.
It is into the wall. God, I'm gonna have to do double targets. That is, this bow has got to be shooting 300 feet a second, dude.
It's going. So it's a good thing that we stopped at just doing the one, because now our lateral tear is.
Let me push that point in so people can.
About exactly where we want it.
What do you think? 7 more clicks on the rest, or?
Yeah, we're gonna give it quite a bit more.
Or do you want to move the D loop down? What do you think?
We could move the loop down, but like I said, a number of people that shoot these bows competitively tend to run that loop a little higher up.
Let's stick with what you got. I like what you got.
It there.
Let me try to get this arrow out of the wall, and then Justin, you're gonna move this rest. You could probably just do it here real quick.
Quite a bit up, yeah. This is a nice custom OMP stand.
This is a Jake Webb special.
Jake Webb
this
special.
arrow went. Oh my gosh! Did you hear that? Hopefully I didn't bend this arrow. So I've never hit that wall through this 365 target. You guys should come around here and look. So this target, this arrow went. Now this isn't the thickest part of the foam. I should try to hit here next time, but it went into the wall, dude. Wow! It's got some serious energy.
Ripper.
Mathews ain't messing around no more. So you just move the rest up. 6 more clicks.
I moved it quite a bit.
Gonna need to get a sling on there.
ASAP.
Yeah. What do you think, Justin?
So I'm nitpicky. It's a little.
You're being nitpicky. I want to know why. What exactly do you not like about that?
Our eyes can see symmetry pretty well, and to me, it's still just a little knock high, knock left, or point low, point low and point right. So we're gonna use the micro adjustments now on our rest to do this.
I really want to show the people what you're talking about. There we go. So
yeah,
it's just slightly,
slightly little.
Knock left.
Yeah, slightly knock left, slightly knock high. So we'll probably give it 2 or 3 up with the rest, and then probably the same amount right to get it dead on. So yeah,
huge fan of the skateboard tape. Have you ever tried it?
No, I haven't, but it's grippy. This is actually, I think you lucked out on this material. It's like the perfect length. If you want to get your hand out of the sling there.
Perfect.
A little more.
That's great. That's great. I know y'all want to see this hole, which is weird to say. Check this out. Look at that. That is a beaut.
It's good. It's close enough that you can start to shoot broadheads with that comfortably and not have to worry about
missing a target.
Yeah. Okay, so Dan has the new UV, what's the exact?
UV slider.
UV slider sight. We've got the locking lever broken free at the moment. Need to come in from the bottom here.
It'll click.
It'll click. There it is. We'll get the bridge lock screw in initially. Indentations, 3 of them here, so 3 positions that you can locate. This is the bridge lock bar on this. The closest position, this rail from Ultra View and the scope itself. So the rail leveled to the scope, these are slave to one another.
Yeah.
So when you make a first axis adjustment, which is effectively moving your rail in this manner, this is slave to it. So right now with the string level in both directions, so this bow is sitting completely vertical. We've got the level on the string, the level in the scope matching. So maybe dumb luck that you got that.
I do want to do third axis with you here.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
She ain't going nowhere, Justin. That's gonna be your new nickname.
If it was a ratchet strap, it was tight.
Now your soft knots, your D-loop, your
the one thing I noticed in, I'm my own hardest critic is, I don't know where it happened in the process, but we've gotten a little tighter on the loop throughout this. So probably at some point it might behoove you to untie the bottom portion of this and just tie.
A little thinner to winter?
Yeah, just a little thinner. Give yourself a little more room in there. It's not bad, but it's not great.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and then P-pipe.
Justin.
Solid?
Yes.
So how am I tying it in? Loosely? I would.
I mean, I really wanted to film your special tie-in way. Did you see the way I tied that one in?
It's probably the specialty way.
Look at it.
Yeah, that's very similar to how specialty.
But that takes a long time.
It does take a long time.
And look at the thin. I used the thin
Yeah.
serving. That took me like 30 minutes.
Yeah. When you pull against each of these tag ends that we've created, it's going to help cinch and pull everything into place. This 400 nylon, just soft enough that I don't feel like it ever really breaks through. Yeah, that stuff. It ever breaks through these nose buttons when we put them on. We're going to put those. Take in here and being sure not to pull too tight because this 400 nylon has a tendency to snap if you goose it too much. Just get it started. Always flame up. Don't go flame on the underside. Take and twist this to the upside. Burn a little bit of it off. I left it a little too much, but that should work. So we'll just go around. Peep here. Top, bottom, top. That way she doesn't fly out. At this poundage, pretty important to make sure it's secure. And then the tag ends here, we're gonna bring through the split on the bottom, pull them back through, and kind of create a knot here that will slide into the groove of your peep, like so. Good and snug. Hit it with the light. Hit it with the light. And now he can shift that up and down a little bit if needed. If he needs to move his nose button, we were using a little bit of, you could use 550 cord, you could use loop material. You can wrap this around the string and you really have to pull tight and give a good amount of pressure to the way that we tied this in for it to shift anywhere. But that would allow him to fine tune where this is located on the string. You don't want to use something that's too abrasive on string material. You don't want to wear it down prematurely. This will probably settle a little bit. He might get a little bit of peep twist in there somewhere along the line. Our soft knots compressed on each other a little bit, so be wise of him to cut this bottom one out and probably make it a little smaller to get to where he doesn't have, there's no knock pinch in here, but it's not perfect. So outside of that, this bow is leveled, tuned, timed, top to bottom, probably shooting well over 300.
Yeah,
I think,
definitely.
with 430, 425.
Yep, 425.
425. So it's spitting. The lift 29 and a half, 80 pounds, 80% let off. Some custom things that if you guys have watched Josh Jones set these up, he does things similar to how I do them, just in a different fashion. But from an overall bow setup standpoint, I think Josh would agree with a lot of how I did things today. If not, I'm sure he'll tell Dan or me about them. The only last thing we'll do, and it's going to be the same sort of serving tie that we did on the nose button, is just a little bit of insurance serving below the wedge here in case this were to get pulled on really hard and come out. When you do that, just simply take the string stop out. Don't forget to put it back in, and that'll give you a little more working room to put that serving in here. From what you're shooting on a 75-pound bow, but probably not a ton.
Look at that let off. That's crazy.
Where you at? 82.
Yep.
Sweet. Just give me like an or so 19 and a half pounds holding weight.
Okay, that's a cool trick.
Which at 80 pounds, that's
Good
that's
ratio.
closer to what a target guy would probably have on his target bow.
Yep. I'm super thankful that Justin came over. The highlight for me was getting that QAD absolutely perfect, the way he set the timing. All right, guys, I just put the felt on the shelf. I put a little bit of the felt that comes with a new QAD rest on there. I put the quiver on, and I wanted to shoot through paper one more time before we do the sight-in process. Hole is still money. So now we're gonna do the sight-in process. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our sight-in tape right here. And we're gonna find 20 yards with the center yellow pin, the pin that's fixed. We're gonna go find 20. We'll move this dial until we are hitting 20 yards with the middle pin, okay? Once we find 20, we're gonna put the sight-in tape on to where the sight in tape is with this backside indicator. And then we're gonna slide down until we find 60, and I mean like perfectly 60. The white numbers on the sight indicator tape are odd numbers, the blacks are evens. Once you find the corresponding number, then we're gonna take this part of the sight off. We'll put the corresponding sight tape on the table, we'll line it up, and we'll make sure our pins are matching 20, 30, 40. And then we'll go out and get some arrows through this. And I'm probably gonna shoot 50 arrows. We'll also chrono it. And I'm not gonna tie this peep in all the way until I know it's absolutely perfect. All right, we're gonna chrono the phase 4 and the lift. 281 for the phase 4. 300. All right, guys, let's recap this build and initial impressions. Out of the box, Earth, riser, ordered it sight unseen, love the color, it's my new favorite. Ambush green limbs, ambush one piece. I'm running my mountain series from AEE, the ElkShape edition kit. Look for that on my website. You can get everything, the gripper, the 10-degree drop, the quick disconnect, 8-inch, 12-inch set at my website, and you'll save a lot when you buy it as a kit. That's why I'm running that. New engaged leg limbs. They are different to fit these, the new and improved design of the limb pocket and the limb length. Newer cam, a little bit bigger cam, deeper grooves, really protects your string. Running Mathews strings for the first time in my life. They're calling them the match strings. I'm super impressed. The serving, the tolerances. I've been a harsh critic of their zebra strings in the past. I'm super confident in these. Can't wait to run it. The Mathews Integrate Edition with the upgrades from QAD. They did a bang-up job. I don't have to use any heat shrink tube or anything. Quiet everything down with some own custom felt, running the UV slider. You guys saw how I doped that in. I got my middle pin doped at 20, used the side-in tape, dropped it down to 60. It was actually number 1. So this bow is 300 feet a second, holding, my draw weight's 82 pounds, and I'm holding about 19 pounds. So it's kind of like a target archer setup. Love it. Feels great. Getting used to it. Put about 200 arrows through it in the last 12 hours. It's been chaotic. My arm's going to fall off. ElkShape side plates. I'm using skateboard tape that I bought off Amazon. The felt I bought off Amazon. Love the way this thing grips and feels. Really impressed with the UV slider. Gonna run it this year. This is gonna be my primary bow. This is gonna be my backup bow. This is the Phase 4 29. This is the new Lift 29.5. You can also order it in the 33.5. Timing, Justin put a little bit of loop material in this cable and we got it timed marvelously. Took the battery out because I'm hunting Idaho, running the Vise white ring, which is awesome. Sight tape doped in. I got my secondary sight tape right here. So my bottom pin on this side, on this indicator, will start at 70 and go all the way out to 170. This bow is fast. This bow holds like no other. And you guys don't believe the hype in a lot of these new drops every year, so you can believe me or not, but this bow is quieter than this bow, and I didn't think that was possible. This bow is 19 feet a second faster, and I feel like it holds better. It's got more of a target vibe, even though it's only 29.5, super compact. I haven't got to hunt with it yet. I'm headed out tomorrow, so hopefully we can put some elk down and give you guys our, some feedback on that. But right now, very flat trajectory. My top pin is set for 30. It's about 2-3 inches high at 20. My second pin is set at 40. My third pin is set at 50. My bottom pin is set at 70. Like I said, I can slide on my front side tape 20 to 145. And then on my back side tape, I can slide from 70 to 170. It's insane. And I'm in love with this bow. I've shot Mathews for several years. They continue to make small improvements, except for this year. I think they just jumped giant leaps and bounds, and this is different. This is what people wanted. You're gonna get what you want with this bow. And don't sell your Phase 4, keep it as a backup bow. This is gonna be my backup bow. But wow, super impressed. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. It's August, but you're watching this in November. I hope you guys are in a tree stand elevated and excited to go down to a local dealer and give this a spin and see for yourself. Separations in the preparation. We'll catch you on the next one.